Welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be a quick one. I'm outdoors, I'm enjoying some nice hiking around and some walking, and I got thinking and I was thinking that maybe you guys would find it helpful if I gave you the settings I use when I use manual lenses like the one I'm using right now. Like, I have a little thing when it comes to like shooting videos that I prefer to be a little bit more cinematic. I tend to just use old vintage lenses, and they're cheap. I'm gonna make a whole video about how cheap they can be and what you can get out of the cheap ones. But for example, this lens that you're seeing right now cost me like £9 on eBay, including delivery, right? So kind of, you get the idea. But what I want to do today is just give you guys quick tips on the settings I use personally that might help you guys out when shooting vintage lenses on the Lumix S5. Alright, so the first thing you should be thinking about is obviously trying to focus, right? Because it's a manual lens, it's not an autofocus lens. So what can we use to assist our focusing on a manual lens? And that is obviously focus assist. Now you can go into the settings. I've done a whole settings video before on how you can access that, but make sure you go into the settings now, scroll down and access the manual focus assist. Now the great thing about this, you don't have to be in manual focus mode once you put a vintage lens in there. I think like it understands that you're in you're on a manual use lens. Does that make sense? The camera understands you're using a manual lens, I believe, so you don't need to go and change anything with that. But what you can do is change the sensitivity. Now that's going to matter between what lens you're using. For example, I'm using a 24mm here, so the camera will find it easier to find the focus, so you'll get a bit more red on the screen. Like if I move forward now, I'm out of focus. If I move back a little bit, I can see the red developing on my face, so that I know I'm in focus when I'm looking on the screen over here, which is decent. When you go into the settings, you can change that sensitivity. Obviously, you can change the color. It doesn't have to be red. It can be blue, yellow, whatever you like it to be. And yeah, this is the setting you should switch on straight away. The great thing about this, and particularly this camera, the Lumix S5, is I've noticed the focus peaking stays on when you've hit record. That's so important. It's a minor thing. People might think, why is that even important? It's super important when you're using manual lenses and vintage lenses, because for instance, right now, I can't reach the lens physically, but I can see that, you know, my hat's red and everything like that. If I was literally just using another camera now, I'm guessing, because that screen's so small, I can't actually tell if I'm on focus or not. But I know now, because I can see the red developing on my face here and on my ears, the big old ears, and the hat, I can tell that I'm actually in focus. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually holding my mobile phone because I've got you guys recording on the phone, transmitting from the camera, which is kind of dope. But it's just to show you guys how it's working. So as I'm holding my phone now, I can see the zipper over here, that's in focus. It's got the red lines on there. You guys can see that, right? And my hat here as well. Now you see these other lines here. That means something else altogether. We're going to talk about that next. But if I move backwards now, even though I look a little bit blurry, there's no red lines on me. Do you know what I mean? I move forwards, and there you go, back in focus again, and I look normal. Can we just appreciate the dynamic range of this camera? Like, look how beautiful this looks. And also, let's appreciate how beautiful this specific lens is. Like, if you're interested in what lens this is and why it looks so clean and so nice, and it was only like £9, then leave a comment right now below, and I will make a video about that specific lens. But yeah, it's pretty nice. If I wanted to, like, you know, the tripod's moving by itself. What now? Now, one other thing that I find extremely helpful with this camera, now when you look at the back, there's a switch on here, right, where you can switch the camera to manual focus, continuous focus, and single, you know, shot focus. I mean, every camera kind of has that, but there's a button just underneath, and that button allows you to magnify. Now, for instance, when I'm stood back like this, I can't reach the lens, and the screen's really small, so it's a struggle for me to even see that I'm in focus. I'm recording here on my phone as well, so you guys can see what's going on. So you can see that. I mean, look how hard that's going to be to see if I'm in focus here. That's ridiculous, right? If I move that forwards now, you guys can see. But the good thing about it is if we actually go around the back here and take a look at the back of the camera, this is what I'm talking about. It's this switch at the top here. Now there's a button just underneath, and that allows us to punch in on the magnification. And when I do that, I'm just gonna reach around and do it. Take a look at the little LCD screen there on the camera. I pop that. Am I pressing the right button? Wow, okay, for the first time I just realized you can't do it when you're recording, which is crazy. So this is what I normally do, right? I'm gonna keep recording on the phone. So I'll switch this one off. And what I normally do is I'm looking at the screen like this. I'm like, oh, am I in focus? I can't tell. Can't really see the red dots right now, you know, the red lines. So I push that button in, and now you see that's magnified, and it makes it all so much clearer. So when I move forward right now, I'm in focus, and then I hit the record button. Oops, that's not record. Oh man, I'm failing in this video. I hit the record button, and then, you know, it starts to record, and I just stay in the same position. So my third helpful tip for you guys when you're recording with vintage manual lenses, cine lenses, whatever, is to utilize the image stabilization inside the S5. Now Panasonic, this is one thing that actually kind of drew me towards them, because the image stabilization in these cameras it's ridiculous. It's so good, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an example. I'm just going to run around a little bit here, and I'm going to keep the camera in complete manual mode, right? No stabilization, as if you was using, say, a Canon RP or something like that, you know what I mean? And then I'm going to put the embodied stabilization on. So that's like equal as if you was using, say, a Sony camera, or majority of any other cameras out there nowadays that has embodied stabilization. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slap on all the added stabilizations, just so you can see how smooth you can make these old vintage lenses look. So you don't necessarily need a modern lens with all the stabilization built in. So I'm just going to show you that right now. I'm going to give you those 3 examples. All right, so here's example number 1. I'm just going to walk around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to run up this little bit here, so you guys can see me, like, you know, running with the camera, so you can see how bouncy it actually looks straight out of camera with no stabilization. Now, I will be holding the camera as stable as I can right now. I've got my hand like this underneath the lens. I'm gripping, obviously, the grip on the lens here. I'm just trying to keep it as stable as I possibly can, so you guys can see someone trying to do the ninja walk and trying to keep his best effort as I can. All right, so example number 1, 0 stabilization at all on this. This is literally just camera body and old vintage lens. Let's go. All right, so that's that. Let's go back, and I'm gonna do it now with embodied stabilization on. All right, so same situation again. Gonna run up here, but now we've got embodied stabilization on. Let's see how this looks. Okay, and now finally we're gonna slap on everything. So it's gonna crop in a little bit now, because obviously we're using all the electronics and stuff like that. I just want to show you how nice this looks even with vintage lenses. Okay, so what we have now is embodied stabilization as well as electronic stabilization on our footage right now. So it should look a lot more smoother than what it was before. Like I said, I'm hand holding it right now. Just gonna put my hand underneath the lens, do the ninja walk like I was before, and let's see how that one looks. Oh, wow, I'm tripping everywhere. All right, hopefully I can put a split screen on there so you can see how well that works. So that's how it looks when you combine the image stabilization of this camera together, and I think it's a good point to start using it. Some people don't even realize that the electronic stabilization can even be used. I think sometimes you can get jitters and movements like that, but I think that's mainly when you're using a modern lens and the lens has stabilization in it as well. I think they start to fight a little bit. But so far, using a manual old vintage lens, I haven't had any issues with it so far, which is quite nice. So I'm not sure how the results look, particularly out of those 3, because I've just ran up and down there, and I did kind of basically trip over on the 3rd one. But I'll leave it for you guys to discuss and have a look how that is, right? So we've got focus peaking, we've got a little magnification piece going in there that I was looking at, and we've got stabilization. Now the 3rd and final thing I like to use when I'm using vintage, obviously, lenses on the S5 is an ND filter. So that's this right here, to make sure I can control the iris from a distance, because obviously you can't be controlling the iris of the lens. I mean, I have to lean in all the way here, and I'm kind of like, you know, I'm out of shot kind of thing, right? You know what I mean? So it's nice to have an ND filter on there. You can just reach and move around quite easily if you needed to. That's one thing. What I want to talk about the camera settings though, to do with that is, remember before I was showing you on the screen, I had these weird gray lines on my face. If I look now, if I just slightly move that around here, make sure I got more. I had these gray lines on my face. I've got them right now as I'm looking through my LCD screen. Now what that is I've gone into my zebras, whatever you want to say, and your zebras is telling you basically if you're peaking, if you're overexposing. Now obviously I shoot in vlog because I'm trying to get the most amount of dynamic range out of this camera, especially when I'm using old vintage lenses, because they need that more dynamic range to shine. If you compress them, they're not gonna look great because they lack in contrast anyway, right? So if you open up that latitude as well as the lack of contrast, even though this lens has no lack of contrast, I've noticed, you get better results with vintage lenses. So bear that one in mind, right? So when you go into your zebras or your zebras, instead of setting it to say 90%, 85%, 100%, or whatever people set them to, what I want you to do is scroll all the way down on your Lumix camera and you'll get to the bottom. It'll say base ISO or base whatever value, whatever it is. It'll say base something, you know, B-A-S-E, not B-A-S-S. Right, click on that one, come back out, and then you'll notice these lines will show up when the exposure of your image is perfectly correct for vlog. Now a lot of people get confused, like, am I supposed to overexpose vlog? Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? You know what I mean? This will just completely negate that. You're not going to worry about it no more. Just make sure you see lines on someone's face, make sure you see lines on the foliage or whatever you're trying to shoot, and you're going to end up with great footage. So that's it for today. It's super quick. I'm out on a hike. I'm actually waiting for my car to be finished MOT, if you ever know what that means. But I thought it'd be handy to show you guys some settings I use with my vintage lenses. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe, leave a like, and if you do want to see a review of this particular lens, the under £10 lens I'm going to call it, then please leave a comment below. I'll make a whole video about it. I've got a whole video coming up soon of all the vintage lenses I've got in my house. I've literally collected a lot, and there's some crazy barn finds that I had of vintage lenses I didn't care about until I dragged them out recently, and I started Googling them, I started eBaying them, and I realized that some lenses I bought for literally £1, some I got for free, are now worth £400, £600. Like, it's crazy. I was shocked. So you never know what granddad's got in the attic, you know what I mean? Go check it out. Anyway, I got a video about that coming up soon, so if you're interested in that, then stick around. And yeah, that's it for today. All right, I hope these settings help you. Write them down, take them out with you when you go out filming next. Peace and love. And that's right, let me just show you how sharp and nice this lens is. Let me take a look at this. Hold on. Let me set this to f8 because we're on f2.8 right now. It's got f8 on there. Let me see what I'm looking at. It's got a bit dark now, right? So let's move this ND round. All right, that's looking okay. And then I'm gonna focus on the distance. Maybe bring that ND back around even more. It's just so nice. I can't believe this lens was so cheap. I'm just shocked. I'm gonna walk off into the distance now while you see me going to. You know you want to watch a video about this lens. You know you do, huh? It looks like, haha, look, he's walked off into the distance, but the camera's obviously here. I gotta come back for it, huh? Don't you say anything about my wellies, man. Leave me alone. I can wear wellies. What are you saying? I can't wear wellies.